Shalom Chaverim, welcome back to Sichos HaRan. Today we're going to look at Sicha number 5. If you have the BRI book, it's going to be on page 112. Otherwise, it's Sichos HaRan number 5. Last time we talked about Sicha number 4, and we talked about the fact that the Sitra Achara, the other side, can hide in money, in wealth. And that money itself is hidden by the klipos from the other side, from the Sitra Achara, which makes it somewhat dangerous. And today we're going to learn about something else that is also a weapon that's used by the Sitra Achara, another place where you can run into a lot of trouble, and an area for which, and a statement for which Breslov Hasidus was really ostracized by a lot of folks. And that is the area we're going to talk about today is philosophy or secular knowledge. Keep in mind that, when Rabbi Nachman was living, the Enlightenment was in full swing, and there were a lot of folks in Eastern Europe and throughout Europe and even within the Jewish community who were advocating that Jewish students should be learning everything, that they should be getting worldly knowledge to become well-rounded, and they should study, Greek and Roman philosophers and modern European Enlightenment thinkers and all of this sort of thing. But comes Rabbi Nachman and in Sichos HaRan and makes clear that that's a dangerous thing. Reb Nassan begins, the Rebbe emphatically denounced all books dealing with philosophy. He said that such works contain absolutely no wisdom when compared to such sacred works as the Maharsha and the Maharam Shif, which are penetrating and profound. All that philosophy can do is build propositions based on logical arguments in a vain attempt to arrive at some conclusion. But wisdom such as that of the Torah is not found there at all. The Rebbe said that one who knows nothing of such books, but who walks a simple path and fears God's punishment, is fortunate. So, he's saying right off the bat that the works of philosophy are vain, that they are, an exercise in asking questions, trying to come up with some sort of emes, some sort of truth. But the reality is that the Hashem is emes. That's a name of Hashem, is emes, is truth. And because of that, true knowledge can only be found in Torah scholarship. That's what Rabbi Nachman is saying. Then he goes on to say that what we really need to do, and this is a major theme in Breslov thinking, is that we need to walk a simple path, a path of simplicity with Hashem, and just stick to the basics, fear God's punishment, and everything will be okay. Stay away from philosophical works. And he talks a little bit about about this notion of fearing Hashem. And he says that really this is the easiest first step, but it shouldn't be your ultimate goal. He says the only way to begin to serve Hashem is through the fear of retribution. And without that, it's impossible to take the first step, right? So he's emphasizing that this is just a first step, is this fear of Hashem, this fear of punishment. And then he says from there, you can work up to awe of heaven, which is kind of a higher level of fear. And then from there, you can work towards serving Hashem out of pure love for Hashem. And that's the ultimate goal, is to love Hashem. But you have to start with fear of retribution or punishment as a starting point before you can get to that. And then Rabbeinu goes on to say, this is why philosophy is dangerous. He says, when a person becomes involved in philosophy, his mind becomes filled with doubts and questions. And these doubts and questions reinforce a man's inborn wickedness. That is, his nature to be drawn to worldly temptations. So if you're studying things that are, of the world, as opposed to of Shemayim, of heaven, you're going to get drawn into all sorts of questions and confusion. You're going to end up spinning in circles, and you're going to lose sight of the fact that really what you should be focused on is Hashem's emes, Hashem's ultimate truth. And Rabbeinu actually makes this point very clearly. He says, this is why we never find a person who has become upstanding and God-fearing through the study of philosophy. In other words, philosophy, as fun as it might be, it's not going to lead you to fear of God. And if it doesn't lead you to fear of God, it's not going to lead you to love of God, and it's not going to lead you to a Torah appropriate lifestyle. He says, although such works do contain some discussion of good traits, in other words, some of the philosophical works talk about ethics and the like, he says they add up to absolutely nothing. And one loses much more than he gains by studying these works. Towards the end of this Sicha, I'm going to skip over a couple of paragraphs, but he really sort of drives this point home. And he talks about the fact that if someone is seeking inspiration from philosophical works, then he says such inspiration does not come from the realm of holiness, but from the Sitra HaRan, from the other side. So again, last time we talked about the fact that that wealth is associated with the Sitra HaRan. And in this Sicha, Rabbi Nachman is giving us another example of something that we should be cautious about, which is secular wisdom. And he says that if you go looking for answers there, you're not going to find them. And the reason is because every invention, every new idea, every chidush, new insight comes from Hashem, the ultimate source of emes. And so that inspiration is granted to people as it is necessary for the world, for those people to have it. So if someone needs to come up with a new way to harvest grain, then Hashem is going to plant that inspiration in someone's mind and bring it to fruition at the time that we need it. We're not going to find those sorts of inventions or ideas by going out and reading these philosophical works and trying to figure it out for ourselves. He says every insight comes from on high, each thing emanating from its specific place. Each idea has its own place, and there are thousands and thousands of different levels. All discoveries, whether sacred or profane, so whether it's a Torah chidush or it's a new invention, are sent to people from on high, from Hashem, to each person as is fitting. So this is where we're going to get into, and there's going to be more about this as we go through Sichos HaRan Be'ezras Hashem. You're going to see more of this idea that secular knowledge in particular is very, very dangerous. Now, Rabbi Nachman is not telling us to be ignorant or telling us to be stupid or anything like that. What he's cautioning is that we not get distracted by things that ultimately are not going to lead us to real truth. The only source of real truth and the only source of real inspiration is Hashem. And by getting bogged down in these philosophical works that kind of talk in these circles and that try to, force things towards a particular conclusion, we can get distracted from that reality, from that ultimate reality that Hashem runs the world and everything comes from Hashem. So that's this is the first time that we're going to hear about this danger of philosophy or secular wisdom, but it's certainly not the last time that we're going to hear about it in Sichos HaRan. The Sitra HaRan that we've been talking about in Sichos 4 and 5 is associated with the Yetzer Hara, with the evil inclination. And Be'ezras Hashem, in the next installment of this series, we're going to look at Sicha 6, which really explains in a beautiful way, but also a very kind of scary way, exactly how the Yetzer Hara operates in our lives. So you can look forward to talking about that a little bit more in the next installment. Thank you so much.